Hi, this is Blockchain Bad. Welcome to another episode of the Sui Move Smart Contacts Development Series. Today we're going to be talking about transfer context. So, variety of food. Most of come across transfer context a lot of times. That is CTX. So, most times, let me give an example. Now, let's head over to VS Code and let me create a new slot and let me just call this slot my object. This to be an object and has a key ability which makes it an object. Then an ID, which be of type UID. Let's just leave it like this. And now let's say I want to write a function to create a new object. Let me write a new function, public fun, create object. So first of all, to create a new object, I have to bring in the object stocks name. Then after that, I have to specify an ID. So most times when you see a function creating an object, you actually see the function usually have something called transfer context, and it's written like this CTX, and it's immutable preference, and it has transaction context. Now this is what we're talking about. So most times when creating an object, even in my tutorial videos, you must have seen most times this argument is this passed to the function. So I'll talk about arguments. So now let's create an object. So to create a new object, we definitely need this transfer context. So before we go into this, let's go back to the notebook and see more about transfer context. So now this transfer context comes with every transaction that is being executed. So the interaction that is being executed on a blockchain, it has a transfer context. So the transfer context is a set of predefined variables that are available to the program during execution. So for example, every transaction has a sender. So every transaction definitely have a sender, and the transaction context contains value that holds the sender address. So now these are the transaction context look like. And I told you, it is a stock that is passed anytime transaction is being made. So now the stock contains the address of the sender. Then the place that sends the address, the transaction hash. So now this transaction is just like a signature, like a unique signature for each transaction being executed on a blockchain. We call this an epoch. So epoch it's just like a time frame. So it's for Sui. One epoch is about 2 weeks. So now that's an epoch. So it shows the current epoch. That's since Sui started running, it shows the current epoch. So I think we can find the current epoch if we go to like Sui. Don't go to Sui scan. I think you should see the current epoch of Sui right now. So yeah, we're at epoch 816 right now. So it's going to contain the current epoch. Also, it contains the epoch timestamp. So you know what timestamp it's. Then also you know of IDs created. So now let me explain this about IDs created. So now going back to VS Code. Once we want to create an object, the object has to have an ID. So now to create new object ID, we need transfer context. So that's why Inter is just creating an object. We usually use objects in new. Then we always pass in transfer context to create a new ID. So now, like this now, a new ID is created. So now this ID is created should change to 1. So always it's at 0. But anytime we create a new ID, it's going to increment to 1 because we just use the transfer context to create a new ID. So now, let me assign it to a variable name. Let me call it my objects. So right now, after this, we can now transfer. Either we do two things. Either we transfer. Well, okay. First of all, let me give my object an owner. So let me give it an need to be of type address. Now, come here. Now, to get the owner of the object, I mean the person that created the object, we have to pass in the address. So now, how do you get the address? Just like I said here, we can still get the address from the transaction context. So now to get the address, we can come and say ctx dot sender. Now this sender is the person that calls the function, well, like that perform that transaction. So it's going to have the person address definitely. So that's going to be the owner of our address. So after that, let me try to also give my objects the epoch so that we can actually see the correct epoch. So I say epoch here to be of type U64 and come here and I can get epoch, and I would say ctx dot epoch. After that, what can I get again? Let me get the epoch timestamp. So let me just copy this so that we can be able to see all that on the blockchain, everything our objects. So I can come here and say this and to be ctx dot epoch timestamp. So okay, we can also get our transaction hatch, which is going to be a vector U8, but for now I'm not going to print that. You can just play with it later on. So let me just show these three. So right now, it's an object, so an object is always owned. So it's either we make the object shared publicly or we transfer it to the user. So for now, let me just make it a public object. So let me just share it. Let me show you what am I sharing? My objects. Now our function is ready. Now coming back to the international context, there's something you should note. The international context cannot be constructed manually or modified. Naturally, it's passed to every function. So it's sometimes you might not need to catch it. But most times you do catch it when you need it to like um let's say you want to create a new object or you need it for something. So but it is passed with every transaction. So it cannot be constructed manually or directly modified. So you cannot modify the transaction context and it is passed automatically. So now let's deploy a smart contract. So let me come over here and make sure I'm on DevNet. Okay. And let me publish. Okay. We successfully publish our smart contacts. Now let's call this function create object. If I come down here to call function, you see that this create objects function does not take any arguments. So automatically this transaction context is passed by default. So you don't need to pass it to your function. By default, on every transaction, it's passed just for you to catch it if you need it or leave it if you don't need it. So right now, if I just click on this execute button to call this create object function. So let me click on it. Now we have created a new object. Now let me come out to create an object and copy our package ID. Then head over to SwiScan and switch to DevNet. Okay. Let me switch to DevNet. So this is our ID. Now if I come over to fields, you would see the current epoch like I told you, 285. So this is the current epoch, this is the epoch timestamp, this is the address that we got to check that address. So this is the ID we created. So that's it's about transaction context. So I hope it was clear. Just like I said, it is always passed to every function and it is immutable. So that is for transaction context. If you have any question, you can drop it on the comment section. I'm always there to reply to your question, answer your question, or you can also feel free to DM me. I'll drop my Telegram and X handles in the description below. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.